No intro today. I don't have that kind of time, people. So let's get moving on this video, shall we? Hey, BookTube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March, and today's video is on a very fun topic, at least to me, hopefully to you, but I wanted to talk about cozy fantasy and romantasy. Why, do you ask? Because I just read books from both of those sub-genres, and I just wanted to talk about it. You know me, my midweek videos are often chatty, have little discussions that I think up in my brain, and I think to myself, that might be a good conversation to have with my friends on BookTube. So here I am. As you know, I just finished A Court of Thorns and Roses a couple of weeks ago and did my review on this book. This is a very popular, very typical romantasy series. And I read this because it is banned in high schools around the country, especially in Utah. The entire series of this is, and I just read it. I know how scared and closed-minded a lot of conservative traditionalist people are. And that's the only reason why this book was banned. There's anything about anything in this book. It's wild to me that somebody would be that afraid of a book to ban it from a high school. Whatever. It's like a tiny bit spicy in one place, 1.5 places. There's some concepts that I'm sure religious fundamentalists would not like, but those are the only reasons. You know, it's not a cozy fantasy novel, people. This is romantasy. So there might be some violence, a little bit of violence here and there. There's fighting, there's battles, there's war, blah, blah, blah. But that's not really a reason to ban a novel like this from high schools, because all you basically do when you ban a book is you drive its sales up through the roof. So don't do that if you want to ban a book, people. It's just human psychology. And of course, I just showed you this. I bought A Court of Mist and Fury, the second book in the series. Even though the first one, I didn't love it. I thought there was like kind of holes everywhere and the writing wasn't that good. But I can't stop thinking about it. I keep wondering how the story is going, how the people are doing. So I bought the second one, and I'm going to keep going. We'll see how far I get with this romantasy series. So I kept thinking about so many other romantasies are out there, so many series. What's the one? Is the Fourth Wing? Is that the first book in that series? I don't remember, but there's all kinds of hype about that one as well. And I'll put a picture here. There's all kinds of young adult and newish adult romantasy series out there. It's a phenomena. It's a phenomena. And phenomenon? It's a phenomenon. I never know which word to use. It's a phenomenon, people. And you go into any bookstore, especially the big chain bookstore, and you see all the displays of, you know, books from TikTok or all of the fantasy genre books. That section in the bookstore is getting huge. So they are extremely wicked popular. What is the difference between cozy fantasy and romantasy? Well, it's kind of built into the description. Cozy fantasy is cozy and warm and heartwarming and lovely and doesn't have a lot of blood and guts and gore, doesn't have a lot of fighting and language, not really spicy at all. There could be love, there could be romance, but nothing too spicy. And it's just kind of a, you know, very fun, warm, likable characters, just cozy, everything cozy. And I just finished reading one last week, which is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst with the purple edges. I absolutely loved it. I had a blast reading this book. I listened to it on audio, which was a fantastic audio. But I thought this was so sweet and so fun and lovely to read. And this is absolutely a great example of cozy fantasy. If you're not that much of a fantasy reader or a fan, and you'd like to maybe read something magical, this would be an awesome beginning. And it's cozy, but there are definitely some aspects of it where you can see there's some bigger themes There is LGBTQ representation in the book. There is discussion about politics and power and I already said politics, and a country's leadership, that type of stuff. So there's some heavier themes. They're not pervasive through the whole novel. This is definitely a cozy, magical, home-focused book, and it's just so sweet and lovely, and I really enjoyed it. I did finish another book a few weeks back. This is Wayward by Amelia Hart, and I kind of would discuss this as cozy fantasy. It's not like high fantasy. It's more of, there's some magical realism involved. There's some fantastical elements. It's not a book of, like wizards and witches and dragons and stuff like that. Not high fantasy. But I thought it's kind of a skating on the line of cozy fantasy. It's not romantasy, let's put it that way. This is more of a magical realism type of a book. There are some disturbing elements in here, but I kind of thought it's on the line. It can go either way. It's definitely not a romance, but fantastical elements. There is some talk about witches in the 17th century. There's some magical parts that could possibly happen in the current day scenario. This is a trifecta of 3 different timelines. And there's some animals with maybe some special powers. So I would definitely recommend this one as well if you're into something that's not romantasy, doesn't have the spiciness stuff going on. There is a little bit of violence, and there is discussion about domestic abuse, which is disturbing to read about. So FYI on that. But I really did love that one as well. Now, I think one of the purest examples of, I'm going to say this, cozy fantasy, you may disagree with me, but I have to say The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien is fairly cozy. It's high fantasy. There's dragons and battles and dwarves and elves and humans and kings and queens and all kinds of stuff like that. And this is cozy enough for a middle schooler to read. I first read it in middle school. I think I know dozens of middle schoolers that have read The Hobbit and loved it. This is kind of a fantasy book that you can recommend to a young, either a young kid or a teenager, and have no worries and no qualms about it. What can I say about The Hobbit? What can I say about anything written by Tolkien? It's just absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, I would absolutely call that cozy. Yeah, I think I would. Now, I have some other books that these are on my shelf. These are unread books on my shelf, so I suppose you could call them a TBR. But when I think of TBR, I think of something I have to get to soon, and I'm not going to get to these books soon. These are just books that I picked up that I thought I would love, and we'll see. We'll see how they go. Let me show you. I have 4 of them. Let me show you what they are. The first one is The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I would never have known about this book had it not been for BookTube. This is all over BookTube for fantasy lovers. From what I understand, it's a pretty long series. She has several different series out there, but this one is about young Fitz, and I'm going to read the back of the 4 books that I have here. Young Fitz is the bastard son of the noble Prince Chivalry, raised in the shadow of the royal court by his father's gruff stableman. Fitz is treated as an outcast by all the royalty except the devious King Shrewd, who has him secretly tutored in the art of the assassin. For in Fitz's blood runs the magic skill and the darker knowledge of a child raised with the stable hounds and rejected by his family. I've heard so many glowing reviews about this book. I am so happy that I have it and would love to get to this, I don't know, soon. I say that, but I don't know when I'm going to be able to. I just recently bought a book at the big chain bookstore that I know for a fact is cozy, and it was right after I finished The Spell Shop, and I just happened to come across this on a table, and I thought, what a beautiful cover. Of course the cover, I am a sucker for a beautiful cover, and of course it sucked me in. And this is called The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. The title alone, The Honey Witch, of course it looks cozy, but look at the beauty of the color, the cover, just the flowers and the pretty font and this pretty spine and it's all flowery. I'm a flower girl. I love flowers. The Honey Witch is about Marigold Claude has always preferred the company of meadow spirits to the suitors who've tried to woo her. So when her grandmother whisks her away to the tiny isle of Innisfree with an offer to train her as the next Honey Witch, she accepts immediately. But her newfound magic and independence comes with a price. No one can fall in love with the Honey Witch. So I'm assuming there's some romance in here, maybe a little love. I doubt there's some spicy bits. If you've read this and you need to contradict me, please do that in the comments below, but I have a feeling this is also cozy fantasy. The next two, I'm not sure yet, but I don't know. I don't know if these are cozy fantasy, if these are magical books, if these are high fantasy. Both of them look fantastic, so let me show you what they are. This is the first book in a series, One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. And I have seen this on a few places, on a few channels on BookTube, and I've always loved fantasy, but I think I'm rediscovering my love of fantasy because I have read some books with a lot of magic in it lately, and I finished The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit this year, and my fantasy meter is like soaring through the roof. I'm looking for more books, more magical fantasy books. This one, Elspeth Spindle needs more than luck to stay safe in the eerie, mist-locked kingdom of Blunder. I absolutely love that name. She needs a monster. She calls him the Nightmare, an ancient mercurial spirit trapped in her head. He protects her. He keeps her secrets. But nothing comes for free, especially magic. One Dark Window. That looks really good. And the last one I have, absolutely had no idea about this book. It was on a table with the Honey Witch, and I thought this cover also hooked me right away. And I read the back and I thought this looks really good. This is called Daughter of the Merciful Deep by Leslie Penelope. And look, okay. Fantasy book covers are usually beautiful, and the artwork on fantasy book covers is so entrancing and it sucks you right in. I think entrancing is a really good word because I think that's what it's supposed to do. The daughter of the Merciful Deep. And it says, Jane Edwards hasn't spoken since she was 11 years old, when armed riders expelled her family and every other black resident from their hometown. Now, 12 years later, she's found a haven in an all-black town of Onassa, but the construction of a dam threatens to wash her home under the waters of the new lake. Jane will do anything to save the community that sheltered her. So when a man with uncanny abilities arrives in town asking strange questions, she wonders if he might be the key. But as the stranger hints at gods and ancestral magic, Jane realizes she knows this man. Only the last time she saw him, he was dead. Does that not sound fantastic? It sounds so good. And I'm going to say this. I get really happy when I find a fantasy novel written by a black person with black characters. And this author is Leslie Penelope. I'm going to show you her picture. She is a black author, and I'm really, really appreciative when I come across books like that. Fantasy books written by black authors. N.K. Jemisin is a fantastic sci-fi writer. And, of course, Octavia E. Butler was an absolute master at science fiction. So I'm always so happy to find books like this. And it looks so good. Daughter of the Merciful Deep with that fantastic cover. That is it for the books I wanted to talk to you about. Tell me if you've read some cozy fantasy books that you think I might like. Tell me if you are into Romantasy and if you've read any of the series, if you're going to read A Court of Thorns and Roses, or if you started the series already, if you are in the read-along group. Hi, everybody. I know there was a mixed bag of how everybody thought about the book, and I never thought I would continue, but hence here I am. And yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think about any of these books, if you like fantasy, if you're a fan, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.